Ta-da! Sure, maybe it's not impressive as a fireball, but this little baby right here can stop a fireball right in its tracks. Oh, look at that! Here's one now. This little guy is called the Cube of Force, and it is a very, very interesting item. It suffers because it's not very well known, but it has some really cool abilities. The cube is about an inch across and looks similar to that of a die, where each side has unique markings. For example, my definitely not a normal D6. You can press one of these markings for a specific effect, each of which costs a different amount of charges. The cube has 36 total charges and remains 1d20 charges daily. But pushing one of these markings creates a type of barrier that varies depending upon which marking is pushed. Each of these barriers is invisible and forms a 15-foot cube around the user that follows them around for an entire minute or until they end the effect. Since there is no roll associated with this item, you can specify which barrier you want to create, and the barrier gets progressively stronger the more charges you utilize. Starting off at 1 charge, the barrier prevents gas, wind, or fog from passing through. Nothing crazy, but it's a nice little effect. For 2 charges, the barrier prevents non-living matter from being able to pass through it. So things like arrows and rocks can't pass through the barrier, immediately making this item incredibly effective against ranged combatants. And that's only for 2 charges. 3 charges prevents all living matter from passing through the barrier, making it so no enemy can pass through it, gaining even more protection in combat. For 4 charges, all of that, plus spells cannot pass through the barrier. If that wasn't enough, you can expend 4 charges to make it so even spell effects cannot get through the barrier. This is obviously the most effective effect so far, meaning that pretty much nothing can get through it. And finally, for 5 charges, absolutely nothing can pass through the barrier, just in case you could think of something that hasn't already been covered in the first 4 buttons. Now, to clarify, you can allow things like walls, floors, or ceilings to pass through the barrier at your will, so your movement is not restricted by the barrier that you create by small corridors. Now, after reading all of the effects of this item, I really don't think that I need to explain why I love it, but I suppose I should clarify. I love this item as a player. As a DM, I hate this item and I would probably never give it to my players because it's absolutely bananas. Being able to prevent anything from reaching you is so strong, not even mentioning the 15-foot radius around you, meaning that you could essentially protect your entire party for a minute from all sources of damage. It's pretty bananas. So if you find yourself with a Cube of Force, you better make sure that you abuse it. Next up on our list, we have something that is incredibly unique, and that would be the Sword of Paruns. I definitely pronounced that wrong, but it's on the screen somewhere. This sword is unlike any other magical weapon that I've come across before. As you might expect, it is a magical weapon that grants the +1 to attack and damage rolls, but it also has some other really unique properties. Immediately after you take an action, you can cause an effect depending upon which action you just took. The 3 actions that can cause these additional effects are the attack action, the dash action, and the dodge action. If you attack, then you can enable one creature within 60 feet of you to use their reaction to make a weapon attack. This is super cool, especially if you have a ranged party member like a ranger, since they generally don't get reaction attacks because of their range. But the cool thing about this is that the sword doesn't specify the target of the attack that the ranger or the other party member has to make, which effectively gives them a free attack to any target they choose. Now, if you take the dash action, you can do something similar and choose a creature within 60 feet of you to use their reaction to move up to their speed. While it's not as cool as a free attack, it's still pretty cool for positioning and could be really clutch if you're trying to move quickly. And finally, if you take the dodge action, you can choose a creature within 60 feet to gain the benefits of a dodge as well. This is probably the least fun of the 3 possible benefits this sword can provide, and thinking about it, I don't actually think I've ever had a player take the dodge action. Huh. But yeah, so if someone does decide to dodge, then they can grant the benefits to another party member for free, which could be really helpful in a dire situation. But that is the most interesting and non-sentient magic item that I have ever stumbled upon before. Moving on to the 3rd item, we have the Bag of Tricks. I lost my bag. If you watched our last magic item video, we included the Deck of Illusions, which is similar to this item, but it's a bit different. This Bag of Tricks is a small bag that contains small fuzzy objects that you can pull out and throw anywhere within 20 feet. When it lands, the fuzzy object transforms into a creature, and it's determined by rolling a d8 on consulting a table, depending upon the color of the bag, which creature it turns into. When the creature is summoned, it is friendly to you and your party, and you can use your bonus action to command the creature. Unlike the Deck of Illusions, which only creates illusions of creatures, the Bag of Tricks actually creates real creatures. With 3 variations of the bag, there are technically 24 possible creatures which you can summon, although each bag only has 8 potential outcomes. A few possible things you can summon are things like a weasel, a dire wolf, a brown bear, or just a literal rat. Since it's completely random what you pull, there is such a wide variance in creatures, using this item is generally a risk. But I have to say, even though you can't guarantee something useful, this item is just so much fun. Pulling a friendly brown bear out of a bag is so great, and even if you do pull out a rat, it always leads to hilarity. So if you ever find one of these bags in a shop or out adventuring, make sure you pick it up because it's always going to be worth it. The next item on our list is just a really, and I mean really strange item that I had to include, and that would be the Candle of Invocation. At first glance of this item, you see that it has something to do with alignments, and you might think to yourself, "Ugh, I hate alignments." Which, I get, alignments can be confusing, but hear me out. Essentially, this candle is aligned with a certain alignment. Wow, I just understood that right now as I'm recording. God, I'm an idiot. Anyways, the candle, when lit, sheds dim light, and any creature whose alignment matches the candle's has advantage on all attacks, saving throws, and ability checks while within range of its light. On top of that, any druid or cleric with the same alignment can cast first level spells you have prepared without expending a spell slot. Anytime you can save spell slots is a good time for players, not to mention the plethora of other advantages you get while using this item. But that's not all. If the candle has never been used before, then you can use it to immediately cast Gate. Yes, that's right, the 9th level spell, Gate. This candle can literally connect to different planes of existence. That's a pretty cool candle. I will say that this battle area is kind of a unique case, as you need to light the candle and then stay within its radius of 30 feet to really get any sort of benefit. But if you're a homebrewer like I am, this item gives me all sorts of other ideas for cool homebrew potential items. Like, what if you made a candle of Eldritch Whispers that had effectively the same effect for Warlock spells, and maybe instead of advantages, it forces anyone walking in range to make a wisdom save or be frightened and unable to move into the dim light for the duration? That sounds pretty damn cool if you ask me. So when you go ahead and loot that corrupted king's home, make sure you double check all the candle sconces because one of them might be a little bit more powerful than you think. And finally, the last item on our list is going to be the Dragon Wing Bow. Being a bow, this is the most restrictive item on our list, but plays into one of the class fantasies that I believe has been sorely missing from D&D. The Dragon Wing Bow can be any sort of style of bow weapon that is infused with the essence of a dragon's breath. Whenever you shoot an arrow with the bow, it deals an extra d6 of the same type of damage of the breath weapon infused with it. The damage types can be acid, cold, force, lightning, necrotic, poison, psychic, radiant, or thunder damage. Another bonus is that this bow doesn't require any ammunition, as it automatically produces it on your own when you pull the drawstring. I don't know about you, but I love the idea of playing some sort of elemental archer style class in D&D. Not even infusing your arrows, but literally creating your own arrows of magical elemental energy is just so damn cool. The only weird thing about this item is that it deals standard piercing damage and the elemental damage on top of that. I understand the reasoning for this, however, I think it kind of takes away from the whole motif of the item. Honestly, I think this item should be used more as a template or as inspiration for a spell or an entire subclass for rangers. Rangers generally get the short end of the stick, usually being the laughingstock of D&D 5e, being referred to as generally the worst class in all of 5th edition. Lately, the stereotype has gotten better with new subclasses, but the stigma remains, and I think that this item does a good job at opening up Rangers' horizons a bit more. So if you're a Ranger, or even just a martial class who needs a nice ranged weapon, be sure to be on the lookout for the Dragon Wing Bow. And that does it for 5 super cool magic items in D&D 5e. As always, I want to end the video with a huge thank you to our patrons! I struggle to come up with new ways to thank you, but just know you are appreciated so much more than you realize. If you want to join our Discord or our Patreon, I put all links in the description below for you to check out. Also, if you have any magical items that I didn't mention, be sure to leave a comment below and let me know. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.